In this video, traders are going to answer the question, or at least ask the question, when does a good trade turn into a bad one? Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. Alright, so when does a good trade turn into a bad one? Well, the obvious thing is when it goes in your favor, then all of a sudden falls to the floor, you end up hitting your stop loss. Well, that's obvious, right? But there are some times when it's not so obvious, and very often we're trying to qualify a trade's success based on profit or loss. And that's not always the case. There's a couple of scenarios where a good trade turns into a bad one regardless of the profit and loss criteria. So, for example, if we're looking at a momentum type trade, but if you're on a momentum type trade, for example, you're buying a good move to the upside, and we won't go into details about the entry criteria, but you're going buying a move to the upside, all very well and good, and then the market starts to just stagnate. It may well be in profit. Let's say you bought at this level and you've got this much profit, which is very nice, but then it starts to stagnate. Is that a bad trade? In my book, it is. You know, in my book, at that point there, that's a good trade and it's turned into a bad trade because the thesis of the trade has now changed. Well, the thesis, hasn't changed. The actual trading action has changed, and it's not confirming your thesis, because your thesis was, I'm going to buy momentum, I'm going to jump on momentum. You were correct for a bit, and now it's just stagnated. So it's no longer momentum. So that now is a bad trade. You want to come out of that and move on to the next thing. Similarly, let's have a look at a breakout trade. Okay, now this might appear to be simple, but for example, we've got a price coming up here. We buy a breakout of this level going back from wherever it was, and price then pushes up and starts to sit there and maybe pull back and hover around there. Now, theoretically, we could still be in profit. You know, that we've all been in this trade, haven't we, guys? We're sat there, bit of profit, bit of loss, bit of profit, bit of loss, and you're like, oh, do something. That then is a bad trade, because again, the thesis of the trade, it is a breakout. Simple breakout, and it hasn't really broken out. Might be ticking above, might be below. It's not really now of the reason you took the trade. You're in the trade for a different reason. And that's the question to kind of ask yourself is, I'm in the trade now for a different reason. I took it for a breakout. I'm in it hoping the price is going to push up. We haven't broken out. It's not really the kind of aggression I needed. We've sat here now for a long time. I need to scratch it and consider that this is a bad trade. And so another one, guys, might be if you think of the fake out scenario. Okay, so let's imagine now the price is coming down and we're coming to a level and we're buying at this support level, right? There's our long, we're buying at the support level. So this is a kind of reasonably obvious one, but again, if we start creeping through and we're kind of creeping and creeping, which very often happens, we don't often get the flush lower, then this is more obvious than obviously the ones that are in profit. But at that point, even when it's in a losing trade, it's a bad trade, because not all losing trades are bad trades. I mean, if that was a buy and you had a stop way under here and you decided that you want to give it some room, then that's fine. But if you're trading on literally, you thought that was exhaustion, that's a better way of putting it. You thought that was an exhaustion move and you were buying it in a wick through, but then it didn't look like exhaustion because it was happy at that level, then no longer is that a good trade and it's turned into a bad trade. So these are the less obvious examples. The obvious ones are the ones, okay, market's gone in your favor, market comes all the way back, and you're now sitting in loss when you were in profit. Now that could still be an okay trade if it's part of your plan. But again, the number one question to ask yourself is, and the best question to ask yourself, to keep things simple, because we want simplicity, guys, is you say, is my trading thesis still intact? The reason I took the trade, the reason I generated the trade idea, is that still intact? If it is, it might well still be a good trade. If it's not, then it's now turned into a trade that is bad. And I say bad, you've got to be careful using all this negative language, but let's just keep it simple for now. It's a bad trade because the market is no longer doing what you expect it to do. Now, if your trading plan was, okay, I think the market's going to chug to the upside and it's going to eventually get rid of that, then that's fine. That's okay trade if it starts doing this, because your thesis wasn't an aggressive breakout. Your thesis was, okay, I think we might kind of break through there and drift up to highs and close at highs at the end of the month or whatever time frame you're trading, in which case that's an okay trade. Again, we're going back to the initial question we have to ask ourselves is, what's the thesis of the trade? Why did I take it? Did I take momentum? Did I take exhaustion? Are we still in momentum? Have we exhausted? Is it a breakout? Is it a proper good breakout, or is it chugging along? If I said I'm going to take a chug trade and it's chugging, it's still a good trade. So just be careful of that, guys, because very often a trade can transition from one type to the next and we get pulled in with it. The market is determining how we trade then. You know, it's pulling us into a chug trade, or it's pulling us into a drift lower trade. And even though we may still be in profit, like for this example here, we bought a momentum ignition, we may still be in profit, but now we're pulled into a trade that's just sitting there doing nothing. Now, of course, if part of your plan says, I'm going to be part of the initial momentum, happy to sit through then some congestion before another leg higher, then that's fine. Again, we're going back to the initial question of, is it part of the trading plan? But if it is to take that ignition, momentum, now it's turned into a trade that's no longer momentum and you need to exit it. So there you go, guys. When does a good trade turn into a bad one? Some different examples that sometimes aren't so obvious. Take care. Bye-bye.